Okay, well, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll get underway. Thanks everyone for attending today. I don't know if we've got any members of the public. We've got a member of the press, Scott. We've got, obviously, I'll do a quick introduction for the people who might be watching the recorded version. I'm the chair, Gavin Bartlett. I've got councillors Ferguson, Tucker, Cox, Guy and Smith, Deputy Mayor Quentin Smith here as well in the room. And we've got councillor Barry Bruce online. You can see them. G. Antonio to my right and Governance Services Matthew on my left. So we'll get underway. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded later. Viewing, not live streamed. Well, no apologies, everyone's here today, which is great. Any declarations of conflicts of interest? No, it's good. No matters lying on the table. We've got no speakers in the public forum today. We need to confirm the agenda, so I'll move that the agenda be confirmed without additional alteration. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Cindy. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thanks. We've got 3 sets of minutes to confirm. So the first one is confirmation of minutes of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 13th of March 2025. Are there any corrections or alterations or additions anyone seen to those? No. I've only got one question, and it's something that Lyle mentioned something the other day, which made me think the 2 different sets of minutes, we've got different ways of proposing the motion. I don't know whether we're going to stick whether we've changed from one to the other.
Yeah, I've got it all noted here. We have extra words, and we in the thing we talk about resolving to do things and noting. And then in one of the set of minutes we talk about, which I thought was the way it was done, it was moved by Councillor so-and-so, that, and then let's note the thing and approve it. You don't have to say agree that we're going to note that, things like that. It seems to be, and there's inconsistency between the way you're governing writing it.
Yes, so there's been inconsistency since I arrived, and that's been one of the goals that we pretty much just established. Actually, it's a new template that we're actually going to do it moving forward. So you'll see from henceforth onwards, it's going to be a lot more consistent. Yeah, we've definitely addressed that. I thought that might be the case.
It's just an administrative thing.
Yeah.
One you've got the council's names in brackets for some reason. And I'm not, you know.
Yes.
Some weird stuff.
Yeah.
And the only other question I had was for the, that's the next one, actually, I'll get onto that. So, first one, the resolution, I'll move that the minutes of the 13th of March Infrastructure Committee can be confirmed as a true and accurate, or true and correct record without alteration. And we have a seconder for that. Thank you, Cody. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
I would second.
The next meeting was the extraordinary meeting held on the 13th of May 2025. The only question I had about that was the inclusion of the attachments in these recorded minutes. Do we normally include the attachments?
No, that was a specific request from Marie Day, right, Community Services Manager, because the attachments were amended as was compared to the original attachment A in the original agenda report. So they revised it to reflect the changes that you adopted.
Good. That's very good. Thank you. Any other corrections or alterations to those minutes? Lisa?
I just thought that perhaps the minutes could reflect some of the conversation that we had around noting that there was to be work under the parking bylaw review around resident permit systems. I didn't feel that we kind of picked up that conversation in the reflection. And I know that's an area of community follow-up and interest with us. So that was my only.
So for specific wording, would you like me to say council's discussed the proposal of what was it?
Resident parking systems, and noted that that work was being considered with the under the parking strategy. Is that the correct place that that's being considered?
So your reflection of having discussed it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. No other corrections and alterations. Right, so the resolution, I'll move that the minutes of the 13 May 2025 Extraordinary Infrastructure Committee meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record without, or with that alteration. I'll second that. Lisa will second that, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried, none against, carried. Very good. So that brings us to item 1, the one and only item of our meeting, retrospective approval of the Queenstown Lakes District Council submission on the Otago Regional Council draft Otago Regional Public Transport Plan 2025 to 25. It says there, but it should be something after that. We've got Kerry Williams at the table. Thank you very much already. So report, and I'll hand over to you.
I think this might actually be my first time at the infrastructure committee.
Oh, wow,
Thank you
welcome.
for having me. So I'll take the report as read and just point out a couple of things in relation to the submission. It interacts quite closely with the one that went to council for retrospective approval last week on the ORC annual plan, but obviously gets into more detail on the specifics of the regional public transport plan. You know, reiterating the success of the advocacy on reinstating funding for the Wanaka public transport case. This makes that point as well. The second was around me sitting here and feedback on whether the committee viewed it was effective to have the submission come to the group that has the most to do with this issue, or you have any suggestions, because we're always trying to refine the submission process to make sure that we're not, you know, sending out myriad of things randomly, but yes, please. Happy to take the report as read.
Very good, thank you. Any questions? Big. Go for it.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to read through the report, you know, there's a lot of mention of mode shift, and that's a word that's been around as long as I've been around this table. And the question is, have we got any data, current data, that might suggest that we've had any sort of movement in mode shift at all? Or is it just something that's just still mentioned as mode shift that we're trying to achieve here?
Yes,
40% or whatever.
through you, Chair, it's a really interesting question. The general manager may be able to address that more specifically, but from a policy angle, I would love to look into that and mobilize what data we have available. I know we do, but it'll probably be maybe not all in one place right now, but.
I'll call on Brendan if you know, but I mean, we've seen evidence of fluctuating passenger transport use, but it's very difficult to know how much of that is modal shift. How much of that is just an increase in people riding the buses, or a decrease in people actually getting out of their cars. It's actually historically been quite a difficult one to measure in that sense. So,
Right, thank you.
I was going to say the PayTag report on the public transport numbers, and they're generally very positive.
Yeah,
That they're increasing uptake, but you know, go back to the quits program or the whatever in the 40% mode shift targets that, and highlighted in there. I think it's probably worth revisiting where we're at on those targets. I agree with that.
It would just be good to know whether we're having, you know, outside of public transport, what might be happening out there.
It's just interesting. I think we can talk about later, but the Southern Corridor update report in late last year, there was targeting mode shift of up to 50% in order to keep the network working in the Southern Corridor. So it's pretty extreme.
Yeah. No, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess that's, you know, the challenge would be if we saw some traffic counts, we suddenly traffic numbers were dropping, but that's not happening.
No, that's right.
And also, I think I heard something on the radio the other day about uptake of cycling in London. It was something like a 50% increase over the last couple of years. And we're certainly not seeing that in Queensland either.
I was just going to highlight too that, and I made the comment at the council meeting the other day, but the time of use charging, I mean, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. I still don't really understand what time of use charging in our district looks like. And so I really want us to flesh out what that means, because it's hard to advocate for something or to promote it when we don't actually have a model that makes sense or that that is deliverable in our district. So yeah, we can't just keep throwing it out there without actually having an idea of what it looks like and whether it's feasible or not. So yeah, and just the other comment was that the scale back of the ferry service, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, is that the subsidies have reduced, the services, the support is reduced, and therefore the numbers go down. And it's like, if we know that public transport has to be regular, reliable and affordable, and you take away any one of those pillars and the stool falls over, which is exactly what's occurred with the ferry service over time, is the subsidies are reduced and the cost has gone up and the things like that. So yeah, it's, people say it can't work because it hasn't worked, but it hasn't worked because hasn't been able to be made to work. So yeah, I just want to just say that we shouldn't abandon the ferries as a core part of our service. It should be actually supported better.
I think it's, through Mr. Chair, that's something we're working on. We've had historical successes and failures on that front. So, but as we get growth, particularly in the Southern Corridor, other areas, is it a viable option? Does it need subsidy? How would you operate? In terms of the time of use charging, yes, accept that. Let's work on total demand management, which is about, so can you hear it, guys? You just, okay. Total demand management, and it's related to that modal shift. And the government has signalled change in legislation which will make it easier to do time of use charging or congestion charging. It's some way to go before we ever actually do that, and we would need to know how it would operate, what the benefits are, those sorts of things. There's been a bit of work done, but just very initial. There you go.
Just that's
Lisa.
question on it. Following on a bit from what Councillor Smith said around time of use charging, I was really interested around our kind of tech leap in the next few years. If we're considering things like that and we have got license plate recognition systems where we might be able to look at rental cars and things, then I do think that will be a big part of driving our mode shift. So I'd like to think that we're really bringing discussion to the table quite early around some of the opportunities that we can there, and the same around, we are very aware that cars and vehicles are always going to be part of the picture, in my view, in my living lifetime. And I do think it's a user group that we are not currently considering the needs around, particularly looking at our tradies and utes and how that industry is structured currently. So there's some mode shift that we're just not going to be able to achieve. But as we make leaps in whether it's our different transportation systems or our time of use charging, I just think that if we're really looking to work better with all of our stakeholders and better with ORC through this submission, I just think the relationship, if this piece sits with our regional council, I'd like to see us really working on that. How do we work better in with it to get the outcomes that we need locally? Because I still think we're not quite in the conversation enough on that end. But yeah, I'm excited about some of those mechanisms, and at the same time, really cautious around the fears of our resident community that it's just going to drive up their individual costs of moving around. So mode shift has to come trip by trip in my thinking, rather than a whole of person's transport expectation.
Yeah, and bearing in mind that this submission was about the regional public transport plan, so it's really focused on public transport being able to be adequate to provide for that mode shift, isn't it? Rather than catering for every vehicle on the road. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? No. Very good, thank you. So the resolution is that the Infrastructure Committee, one, note the information provided in this report on the Otago Regional Council Draft Regional Public Transport Plan 2025 to 35, and two, approve retrospectively QLDC's submission to the Otago Regional Council on the Draft Regional Public Transportation Plan 2025 to 2035. Well, I'll move it. Does anyone want to second that? Seconders, thank you, councillor Ferguson. All in favour?
Aye.
Everyone, no one against, carried, thank you. So that closes our meeting. At 10:15.